Hello and welcome to episode 76 of the 3 for 1 Sky Fantasy Podcast by fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, following a number of highly owned no-shows on the weekend, as Paul and I joined some Bristolian fantasy enthusiasts on Saturday to drink cider and get home rather late after a trip to the casino. My name is Fergi, and I'm joined as usual by my co-host, Paul McAnulty. Paul, have you caught up with your sleep yet after a torturous Saturday night?
Yeah, sharing my room with you is torturous. No, I've caught up. I got a good 9 hours on last night before starting for work this morning, so it's all good.
Well done.
Great weekend.
Just so everyone knows, I was just as we dropped off to sleep, I was saying to Paul how I'm looking forward to a good night's sleep, because I know that Paul doesn't snore. And I proceeded to apparently snore all night and keep Paul awake all night. So
it's like you were inhaling the room.
I tend to do that after a few drinks. But thank you so much to everyone who we met up with in Bristol for giving us a great time. Really, really enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one. How was your Sky weekend, Paul?
Yeah, it was okay. I made a couple of moves, but it was moves that I had planned and I just brought forward a little bit. Based on the Jota injury. So I've moved up from 45th to 40th. So again, playing pretty safe with the captain options and kind of meandering around there. I still think I've got above average on transfers left, so still options to kind of push ahead later on.
Yeah, I was having a look this morning. It's quite funny actually, because you've risen in ranks. So you've gone from 45th to 40th. I know we've got quite similar teams, not exactly, but you know, a player or two out. But I don't think you had any players this weekend that I didn't have that kind of did anything. But I've gone down in rank, so wondering whether the top 100 is maybe congested potentially with Ronaldo owners and captainers, whereas a bit further down maybe Bruno captainers leapt ahead of me. Maybe not entirely sure.
Yeah. The places around you are quite congested though, so even like 2 points can make up 10 places there.
Yeah.
I know Rafinha is still popular, and you did Rafinha to Coutinho, so maybe.
Rafinha scored, didn't he? I forgot about Rafinha.
Something as small as that maybe made the difference.
I was very smug with myself when Rafinha was benched. That smugness was quickly undone about 7 minutes after half time, or wherever it was. My weekend was okay. Well, I say okay, very little happening at all. Probably held rank. I ended up doing Webster to Kilman yesterday. Original plan was Laporte, but I had a quick look at the fixtures, and while Laporte doesn't have any extra fixtures, neither do Brighton, I don't think, do they? And Brighton fixtures after the next two get a bit tougher.
Brighton do get the extra game against Spurs, which I know we're going to talk about the rearranged games coming up, but their fixture run after the next. So if they was missing the next couple of games, then the fixture run after that's pretty tough. I think they've got City and two of the other big teams back to back. So
yeah. I also made the. What did I do? Who did I take out? Jota to Ward-Prowse move. I would have ideally, I think, liked to go from Jota to Broja. I do want to edge closer to a 5-3-2, and that's going to help me with that, because it means I've got the option then to leave Ward-Prowse if I want and take out another midfielder. I think he got a 5-pointer Saturday, didn't he? So that sets him up nicely. I also think bringing in Broja a bit early, because Broja does have the odd benching at times, doesn't he? Whereas Ward-Prowse never. So that was just
a 90-minute man.
Yeah, that was just a small factor as well, with just making sure that I'm going to make the transfer early to make sure that I go for the definite starter. For any new watchers and listeners, you are very welcome. If you haven't subscribed yet, please press the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner on the screen and set the alerts so you don't miss our podcasts and live streams, which we do every week. Also, please press the like button if you enjoy our content, and welcome to everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us on this. What day is it? Monday lunchtime. Great to have everyone with us. Joseph Robinson scored 92 points, up to 251 from 469. Well done, Joseph. Glenn says he's going to do a bit of PR for Fergie. Asked everyone to like as they came in. Thank you so much for that, Glenn. Shane's had a shocking week so far. Julian Great to join you live. Hope you all had a great weekend. Matt's in. Hot 5 shot is in. John L, Lewis Nichols, Darren Malloy, Gleed Leica, who we met on Saturday. I think he stayed the duration. He's the one who told me in no uncertain terms to follow him on Twitter, so I did, just to find out that he doesn't even follow me. So great to meet you anyway, Rob.
That wasn't the first awkward conversation of the weekend, was it?
It wasn't, no. Dave Perrins still flying high. Kermit the winger, isolated with COVID. Hope you're okay there, Kermit. And John L says, in that case, good afternoon to the housewife's choice and the Welsh snorer. Absolutely. I'd rather be snorer than spooner. And Connor Thompson says, afternoon all. Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Let's have a look at some ownership following the transfers made on the weekend. Cancelo still top, obviously, 98.1. Salah returns for captainers, 97.3. Bowen, 96.4. Trent, 87.8. Laporte still high on 72. Pope on 70. Kilman has gone up massively, Paul.
Yeah. So if you want to flick to the next slide, Fergie, I've got. I looked at 4 players yesterday and thought what they're like, and thought they would be the biggest movers, like net movers overnight. So Laporte was sat at 82.4%. He's moved down to 72.3. So net 101 less managers in the top 1K. Webster 44.1% down to 22.3%, so net 218 different. Rafinha, I thought he might drop more when people saw he was benched. People might have been used him as the make way for Kilman, although he only dropped 10 places. So my prediction there was wrong. But Kilman up from 32.4% to 66.7%, so a net movement of 343 managers. That's people obviously playing the volume fixtures for Wolves and having that covered for the captaincy against Arsenal. Even though I still think Gabriel's the best captaincy option, Kilman will be the most popular option for sure.
Do you think based on yesterday, obviously Kilman got a 10-pointer last week, but it was man of the match without passing. Kilman didn't get passing again yesterday. Do you think people will be tempted to maybe move Laporte to Gabriel to move alongside Kilman on Thursday and captain him, or because again it's Arsenal's fixture volume, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, but the problem with Arsenal is that they don't play the following week. Because if they did, I think it would be a really popular move and one that I would definitely consider doing myself. But I'm doubling Gabriel's points when potentially Laporte could outscore him against Everton next Saturday. Even though they've only got the one game and I wouldn't be captaining them. I still think with Arsenal missing the following week, had they played, and Arsenal have a really good hop-on point the following game week, which is on the Sunday, so you can move off a player that plays the Saturday as well to get in Gabriel. So that's the only, those are kind of reasons why I'm not considered doing it. I'm just going to captain Kilman, I think. But I can definitely see arguments. I think he is the best captain option.
I think another kind of point of why I went Webster out, because I was pretty set. I know because you mentioned on Saturday taking out Webster, and I said, "Oh, are you mad?" Because okay, he's missed a game, but in terms of value, he's fantastic, and I was still stuck on taking Laporte out. But I think actually the Man City and Liverpool results may have played just a small part there, because if they'd have gone the other way and City would have gone kind of 9 or 12 points clear, you'd imagine Laporte being rested a lot more. But now it's kind of blown the title wide open again, right? Because if Liverpool win midweek with their game in hand, which we're expecting to do against Leeds, they're 3 points behind. So City have got to keep the pressure on, got to keep playing their best team and got to keep winning. So I think that had a slight, erring on taking out Webster as well. And taking out Laporte, if the league was basically won, I think is a very sound move. But when it's not, Laporte just smashes passing every single game. They're gonna keep clean sheets over these next few weeks, even if it's until the point that it's won in game week 32 or not. He's worth holding on to now, I think.
I still think there's opportunities to come off Laporte and take advantage of the extra fixtures that have been announced as well. Like there's going to be a lot of 4-for-1s, and when you go back to City afterwards, do you even want to go back to Laporte, or if you go back to City, there's multiple options for kind of that daisy chain moving as well.
We should know kind of roughly around that time. Obviously, that Liverpool and Man City is get that match in. I think it's FPL game week 32. Could decide the title, right? And then you'll know then maybe if you want to hold on to it or not. Touching on the extra fixtures, then let's have a look at them. So for those who haven't seen, assuming most have, but extra fixtures dropped on, I think it was Friday afternoon. Friday afternoon. Thank you very much, Premier League, for doing that. But Thursday, the 10th of March, there were three midweek fixtures dropped. Southampton against Newcastle, Wolves and Watford, Leeds and Villa, hence that extra game for Wolves we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
And then the week after, then there were three midweek games also dropped. Brighton and Spurs, Arsenal and Liverpool, they were on the Wednesday night. They should be easy to cover captaincy-wise. The interesting one, I suppose, is Thursday the 17th. Everton versus Newcastle was dropped in there as well. So what are your initial thoughts on the impact of these games, Paul?
Yeah, so you've got Newcastle, who's the only team that play 2 extra games in that space of time as well, one of which is the captaincy coverage. So there's going to be opportunities there to move on your mid-priced midfielders, perhaps for St Maximin if he's back fit, or Chris Wood or someone like that. That sounds more like a Fergi move than
Emil Kraft.
Yeah. But yeah, Wolves is interesting because Wolves have the nice fixtures. They have the single captaincy against Arsenal. They have that additional fixture. They don't blank next week. So you can see why Kilman was the popular move. Rafinha, it's a nice kind of double within that week for Rafinha as well. The 2 fixtures, they've got Leicester and Villa. They've got a game against Norwich as well. So I'm not sure that the people that came off Rafinha won't be a little disappointed.
I feel like it made a
although Coutinho gets the extra game as well. So what's interesting is something that's not been announced yet, and it's heavily touted, that the day before those Thursday fixtures, that Southampton, Newcastle, Wolves, Watford and Leeds Villa game, is it's heavily touted that the Arsenal-Chelsea game could move into there. That would be really interesting because it would then make Gabriel more appealing again. But as I said before, there's a good hop-on point on the Sunday before it that you could move on. And people have asked about when's good. Like, we know Chelsea's fixtures are great. Rudiger's going to be really, really popular when he comes back. I think Mendy and a few others as well. When's a good Chelsea hop-on point? Because they don't play Sundays. But if you look at the volume of games that they've got, just by coming into Chelsea, if they had a fixture on the Wednesday, it doesn't feel optimal because you're not getting on the Sunday and the person's played on the Saturday and then you get the 2 games. But even coming on the Wednesday for a player from a team that doesn't play on that Wednesday or Thursday, if this happens, you're still taking advantage of fixtures. So you're getting like what you would normally gain by making a Sunday move. And that's like, if that's a player in the team that you want to get onto, which I know a lot of people are interested in.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of extra. Are you? Sorry, you touched on this. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. I was thinking of Emil Kraft. Glenn said he's 5.9 million. There are also, so for Chelsea in that game week, looking last night, there was a bit of a conversation between some of the top fixture guys, and they also think there's a pretty good chance Chelsea will likely have the extra fixture, but it could be against Norwich as well, and there's another game which they have to rearrange as well. I think the current favourite, I think James from Planet FPL, his current favourite is Chelsea Norwich, which obviously makes it an even more appealing move. We should hear that in the next week or two. But yeah, that again, and this is why I went for Ward-Prowse rather than Broja, because I think that kind of at the moment I've got Gallagher and I've got 3 other mid-price mids, but him, kind of one of them to Rudiger is a very easy move, isn't it?
I think that skipping that Southampton Norwich game was potentially viable before, but with Southampton getting the extra fixture in the following week now, it's a good fixture against Newcastle, and their fixture run is pretty good afterwards as well. That it almost makes it more tempting for those that were considering skipping, might be reevaluating that.
It's interesting because we've been talking about this, haven't we, since like the start of December, when all these Chelsea rearranged matches are going to be played, because defensively, when they're on it, they are just absolute superstars, right? You know, there's as good assets as Man City, and you know, obviously there's players like Trent, you know, and maybe one or two others, even Kilman in terms of value. But there will be players. I'll probably do it in my B team, you know, who may decide to do the pylon, right, and go full, maybe 3, 4, 5, or even 6 at the back in an attempt to, you know, revive their fortune. So, and they're so well priced. We had a brief discussion on the weekend, didn't we? I was talking about, you know, making sure that I've got enough funds to jump on the Chelsea assets really quickly. But you know, I'm not sure who the most expensive one is. Is it Rudiger 9.1 or any of the? Oh, Aspilicueta might be a little bit more, but they're not actually that expensive, are they? They're not classed as premiums. They're not like 10.
They're not Diaz. Yeah, they're not like Diaz, Van Dijk, or any of the Liverpool guys.
Yeah,
the 3 main ones.
But it's just, I suppose, just an interesting point in terms of, you know, if people are doing that. I'm definitely, you know, thinking of doing it to try and, you know, to make a bit of a push up the leaderboard and take advantage, you know, of their fixtures and jump on quite heavily. It's probably worth remembering that they're not that expensive, and you can still hold on to, you know, you can still pretty easily have Kane and Salah up front, can't you? You know, and things. So
without sounding like a hypocrite and contradicting myself, something I previously said, but I always thought like Gallagher, his price was a fix. So if someone wants to think, is there something that I've noticed that perhaps others haven't, or that haven't looked into the fixtures yet? One thing I've looked at was, so Gallagher plays on Saturday the 5th of March away to Wolves. If St Maximin was fit, he plays against Southampton on Thursday the 10th of March. So one Newcastle fixture there. You come into the following week and you have Newcastle away to Chelsea is not a great fixture. So you'd have St Maximin's second fixture. And Gallagher's not played yet. On the Monday night, Gallagher plays, but he plays Man City. So not a great fixture. You're probably most of Captain Cancelo if he plays, or Laporte. So that's 2-1, but with Gallagher having a poor fixture. Then on the Thursday night, Everton play Newcastle. And then you get the captains, like, so that's a single game day. So that would be 4 games St Maximin would have to Gallagher's 1. It's not something I'm dead set on, but if people were looking at, that's a single captaincy day, what's options that you could look on and get involved in, then that's something that you could potentially do.
Yeah, you know, and when you make statements or make plans and stuff, it's obviously just based on the landscape at the time, right?
I was only joking.
Things changed on the, you know, and a 4-for-1, and either go back or daisy chain onto someone else. Obviously, makes sense just to hold on to someone, just holding on sake. So yeah, it's interesting how all this is going to work out now. There's going to be plenty of 3-1s, 4-for-1s in there.
Yeah, it's just for, like, to balance out the argument. The thing for me would be, because St Maximin wouldn't be somebody that I'd want to be holding long term anyway, it is going to be 2 transfers and another. Like, would I worry that he doesn't start against Everton for the sake of gaining the Southampton, the one extra fixture before it happens? I'm not convinced myself that I would, but as I say, it's just like, it was an option that I've kind of seen to cover off.
It's risk appetite though as well, isn't it? And it's also transfer dependent, because if you've only got 8 left, it may not even be an option for you. As if you're swimming and still got 20 left, you can now afford to do these luxury moves. And even if they don't work out, it's very likely that you're gonna have some benefit anyway, even if it's smaller than you hoped, didn't it? So benefit of something back.
And you get similar options with Everton. Again, I just don't know that there's any Everton assets that I'm overly interested in. If Calvert-Lewin was firing fit again, or Richarlison, maybe. And you can do the 2 games before, and they've got a hop-on point on the Sunday if you were taking someone out.
John L said he would rather have a Kraft dairy spread than pick Emil Kraft in his team. 5.9 million, Paul. Just so you know, did he? I think he scored a few weeks ago. Maybe wrong. And I noticed after your Fred jibe to me on the weekend as well. After I tipped him up, he went on to score the winner yesterday. So Avis de pied, as they say.
In Bristol.
Yeah, they don't say that in Bristol, do they? Any other kind of thoughts, Paul, on these fixtures? Any kind of really big 4-for-1s kind of immediately jump out for you or anything apart from the ones you've already mentioned?
There's nothing else. I still only own Trent, and I was considering trying to get on the double up with Van Dijk, but for me it would be injury permitting, because Liverpool play that double, and I would like to have the double defence in for them. But because there's no immediate hop on point on the Sunday, I think I'd just play it by ear again. See if a player got injured and I knew that he was going to be out, you're not getting an extra fixture from them having already played anyway, and that might be my option as opposed to anything else.
Okay. Martin Boyle would rather listen to an album of Kraftwerk. Very good. Let's have a look at the fixtures then for this week. Going into on Wednesday, Watford against Palace, Burnley and Spurs, Liverpool and Leeds on the Wednesday. Pretty obvious Salah captain you guessed this week, especially after Leeds. I saw a stat yesterday. Leeds have conceded 30 goals in the last 10 games, an average of 3. That's an average of 3, and they're playing Liverpool. If Salah plays, he's going to run riot, right?
Got to think that he's 97% ownership. I think you'd be brave to not captain him, even though Kane's in form.
And the other big question, which we've had a few questions around, is something I'm definitely doing. Ronaldo, the underwhelming Ronaldo, straight move to the inform Kane this week. Is that a no-brainer?
Yeah, I can't wait to get rid of him. The only other argument I would have seen is if the Man United's lineup was available on Saturday. But you just already gave the stat about Leeds and how many goals they're conceding.
They play him on Saturday.
So I think so. Yeah, so I'd rather captain Kane, even if I saw both their lineups, and I'm not even convinced. Man United's playing Watford. Is Ronaldo definitely going to play in that fixture? I think it makes it very, very, very easy. What's a more trickier question is if you own Bruno, what do you do?
And I'm not. And that is a question, Paul, that we've had in as well. So sorry to pounce on you with this. I suppose if you do hold Bruno, obviously Bruno captains yesterday, won outright, absolutely fantastic, well played. Have you got a natural hop off point for Bruno, or do you actually keep Bruno if you've got him? Well, I know they've got Watford next week, but after that their fixtures turned, don't they?
The natural hop off point is either you just do the straight Bruno to a Kane swap, or you wait 2 weeks. So you'd have Kane away to Burnley, which he's probably not going to be captained, and this is Orson if people are budget dependent. He's probably not going to captain him, so because people will be captain Salah. Then you play them both. You play Bruno against Watford, if you want to captain him because you don't own Kane or Son, then instead of that fixture. Then the following week, Man United play Man City on this Sunday, so you'd still get the fixture then, even though you might or might not captain him. And then on the Monday, you'd move on to Kane because Kane plays on the Monday the following week against Everton. That would be the options. I think my preference would be you've won the Bruno versus Ronaldo game already. So Ronaldo to Kane is going to be such a popular move on Wednesday that I would likely just move Bruno to Kane. Yeah,
I agree. He was on a different level, Kane, on the weekend, wasn't he? It was great to see Spurs as a Spurs fan play like that. And just a question. I know, I know again because there's a bit of debate in terms of Son versus Kane. If you had the choice, definitely Kane, and if so, why?
I think this is a fact that I've never owned Son and Sky. Never once done them. I just think with the shot volumes, say it every week, but know the way that I play the game anyway. I play ownership for the majority of my decisions anyway. But I've just always found that because Son's a striker, if he was a midfielder, maybe be slightly different. But then again, it is only one additional point, and there's no underlying bonus type like a 3-2-1 style bonus performance points. And I've just always thought that Kane's shooting accuracy and volume of shots always picked him up tiers when Son perhaps wasn't as prolific in that sense as well.
He went through a period last season as well, didn't he, where he was, he was like scoring the goal, and then he was heading corners away, and because of this, the commentators just absolutely loved it and gave him like man of the match every week, didn't they? So I think the fact, as you say, the shot volume, shot tiers, the fact that he, I haven't got stats in front of me, but I would guess he is far outperforms Son in kind of man of the match stakes, and then his penalties on top of that as well, which it's not massive thing, but if they win a penalty, he always takes it, and he generally always scores. So I think for me, Kane is definitely the one on top of the ownership, as you say.
There was a question about the double up, and that's definitely not the worst idea in the world. If you've got someone else that you want to get rid of, or if you're playing catch up, I don't know that I'd be captaining him over Kane, but again, that's my own preference. But even having him alongside Kane might be a nice differential.
Good stuff. And then Arsenal Wolves on Thursday. So plenty of people, as you say, have moved on to Kilman. If you're looking for a captain on the Thursday, you think Gabriel is the best pick?
I think so. Yeah. He just missed out on passing at the weekend. I think he got 56. I think it was. But if you look at his average over the last, someone posted, I think it was Tom Hartnell posted it on Twitter, and forgive me if I'm misquoting, it was something like he was averaging 7 points a game for the last 10 games or something like that.
Nice.
I think he said Saka was similar as well. But for me, Saka's too erratic in his point scoring, whereas Gabriel seems a bit more assured, a bit more steady, and kind of player that I prefer owning in Sky.
Okay, and moving on to the weekend matches then. So firstly on Friday, Slanted versus Norwich. So plenty of people made the move this week for either Broja or Ward-Prowse. Certainly Jota owners would have probably made that move on Saturday. If you had the objective choice, if both Broja and Ward-Prowse, and all the other usual suspects started on that game, who would be your objective player of choice for the particular match, Paul?
For my style of play, Ward-Prowse, but I definitely wouldn't have any heated argument about someone saying that Broja was as good a choice. Certainly, if it matches what they want to do longer term, their team structure and price points and stuff like that, I wouldn't argue either way difference. I think Ward-Prowse just edges it for the way that I play.
Yeah, I think like watching Broja over the last few, he looks so dangerous. He's such a good footballer, and I bought him in a couple of other formats, and I'd like him in Sky, but as you say, because of structurally, Ward-Prowse fits my plan better.
Double up potential. Southampton have got the volume of games, and they've got nice fixture run. Perhaps there's some sort of daisy chain move if there's a player that you really want rid of. Like Liverpool don't play next week. If you could find a good hop on point for Liverpool, is that you bring Broja in for someone else and then move, like say you brought in Broja for Van Dijk or Trent and then moved somebody else on that you didn't want. Yeah. If that was part of your long-term plan. Again, I've heard worse ideas, I think.
But I don't think you would do that, or even it would even cross anyone's mind if it didn't have a captaincy day. It's just because we're focusing on Southampton because they got the captaincy day against Norwich. But yeah, again to quote Ian Parrin about bringing in attacking players from teams who score lots of goals, and Southampton don't tend, they're playing really well. Their players are in form. They don't score 3, 4, 5 goals, right? And even if they won 1-0 or 2-1, you'd see that as a win. You had one of their players, but to have a double up for me, I understand what you mean about fixture volume, but I personally think there's better ways. I think you'd look back in a month and think, why the fuck did I double up on Southampton attack?
So I was thinking I was thinking of a scenario like you already own a Southampton player, and it comes out and Graham Potter says no, Webster is out long term now, and you hadn't moved Webster on yet. You're going to miss the fixtures there. You have a look at the weekend fixtures. Who's the players that you want to get in, and what can you afford? And Broja would be someone that you potentially be able to afford. So I definitely don't think it would be the worst move.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm on on Ward-Prowse, and their fixtures are pretty good, aren't they, for a number of weeks? So Saturday the 26th, we start off, as we mentioned earlier, with Leeds and Spurs. Get to the lineups, get to see Kane starting against a very frail Leeds defence. United versus Watford, 3 o'clock. Palace and Burnley. That's the thing with United and Watford. If you do hold on to Ronaldo especially, you don't know if Ronaldo's going to play, right? You guess he does, but you're not sure. Palace against Burnley. So, Gallagher owners have two really nice fixtures, away to Watford on the Wednesday and then this fixture then on the Saturday. So probably hold on to him definitely for a bit more anyway. Brighton and Villa. So we don't know if Webster will start or not. And Villa's probably not the best defensive fixture anyway. Brentford, Newcastle, Everton and Man City. Best captaincy option. A tough one maybe between Kane and Cancelo.
Yeah. I just think the stats that you've thrown out about Leeds, like they give up chances. So even if Kane doesn't score, you think that bonus potential is going to be high in that game anyway, and assist potential as well. I think what would have been there would have been a bigger debate previously will be less so now, and I think that Kane will be the standout captaincy option now, and most went for.
Wow, that'll be interesting.
What's your thoughts?
My initial thought was Cancelo, just because you've always got that safety blanket avenue of passing regardless, right? I suppose the only thing, so after this week, so they have, is it Champions League this week they got, and then it's FA Cup next week, haven't they? So they could rest him for the FA Cup midweek match. So I probably think he'd start, against Everton, especially now as well, as I say, because Liverpool will likely beat Leeds in midweek, the gap will be down to 3 points. So yeah.
It protects me in a little way because I've held on to Laporte, although there wasn't a mass exodus. He's still owned by 72.3% in the top 1,000. Having the City defensive double up and not captaining them still means I've got 200% effective ownership if they do keep it clean.
Okay. I just, again, the thing with Spurs is you definitely get to see the lineup. So yeah, it'd be interesting. Go with the polls maybe.
I think and this happened the other week when people went for Ronaldo, but I guess there was more thought that Cancelo would be rested.
Sunday, West Ham versus Wolves.
There was a question came out about Jared Bowen, and I think it's definitely viable to transfer Jared Bowen out in these coming up fixtures. There's no additional games for West Ham and there's no captaincies other than this game day. I think he'll still be the most captained and standout captain option. So I'll be captaining him. Some people might be on Kilman. Transferring him out after that game is potentially an option, especially if you've got a lot of transfers. As I say, their next two fixtures after that are away to Liverpool on the Saturday. They have no midweek game then when others double. They play Villa the following Sunday. He could be the best captaincy option. There's a few others in there. Those have got Southampton at home to Watford, so your Broja, your Ward-Prowse. Leeds at home to Norwich, so Rafinha. Chelsea, people might be on against home to Newcastle at that point. And Arsenal, if anyone did move to Gabriel, then that might be. So maybe I'd be a little bit nervous on the Sunday the 13th game, but it's certainly, again, a viable option for people to consider.
Superb. And then finally, the midweek game. Obviously, we hope to pod before this. We might not be able to actually. We'll touch on that later. But Burnley versus Leicester on Tuesday the 1st. So those obviously held on to Pope. Some will be on Weghorst still. Congratulations to those who went to Weghorst, by the way. He's paid you back in spades. So not really much to talk about there. The only interesting thing I think is this. I think this does mark the start, doesn't it? Potentially of Leicester having quite a few fixtures. They've got a lot of fixtures to make up.
Is it? Because I can't remember when I'm no fixture guru at all. But I thought that if they won their first leg 4-1, and I thought if they win their second leg, they're obviously still in. Like if they don't get overturned on that deficit, so they wouldn't play the next two midweeks. Like there's no fixtures arranged for Leicester in those. So they do have a nice fixture run. They play that game against Burnley. I think Pope's a standout captain, and even if I brought in a Leicester player, I wouldn't be going against the captaincy. They do play Leeds on Saturday, 5th March, a great fixture, but Liverpool's at home, so I'd be captaining Salah. They don't play that midweek. They are going to have a lot of fixtures at some point in the season, and there's going to be an excellent jump-on point for them. I think that there might be better opportunities.
I thought the Tielemans looked excellent yesterday. I thought Leicester were unlucky yesterday. Actually, they just got kind of outdone, didn't they, by a better drilled sort of
stuffy Wolves performance.
It was, but I thought the
Tielemans couple of bits of magic from Wolves as well, like Podence.
John L says Bowen to Tielemans for me on the 1st of March. That's his.
I can see it. I can see the upside of that.
Superb. We've had in so many questions this week. Thank you so much, everyone. I would guess we've answered quite a lot, so we'll run through the ones that we haven't. Hornet just asks, Kane in on Wednesday or stick and see Ronaldo? Yep, I think we're pretty much Kane in, right? Paul Holden Warren, who I believe might be top of TFF, I think. If you are, well done, Paul. If not, mistaken identity, but well done anyway. Asks about the Southampton move. So I think we're on Ward-Prowse, but for me it's more structure than anything. I think it's a tough one on the night in terms of who gets the most points. I think it's pretty fair to say. Yeah,
and I like Broja as an option, so I definitely wouldn't, as I say, I wouldn't rule either
out. Tom Hartnell, great to see you guys on Saturday. Yeah, we met Tom on Saturday. Great to meet you, Tom. Hope things didn't degenerate too much after I left. And what do you guys think of a Sky FF meetup? We tried to do one last summer, didn't we? But there was COVID restrictions were kind of on and off, and rule of 6 and all this jazz. But I'm pretty sure we'll be able to sort one out for the summer, won't we?
I won't, but yeah, I've got a little one on the way. It's due in the summertime, so I think getting out is going to be limited for me. But yeah, definitely interested in doing something further down the line.
Glenroy said last year's Paul Stag Do t-shirts are still for sale. Maybe we could change them to Wet the Head, Paul, but we'll see.
Yeah.
FPL Spartans, John, is Jared Bowen mid-hold or time to move on with a player who has 5 games compared to his 3?
Yeah, there's definitely options. Certainly if you want to cover off captaincy and such like down the line.
Yeah, definitely. And he also mentions about you moving to 2nd overall in fan team second chance. Well done, wee man, he says. He's not so wee, but yeah, 2nd overall, Paul.
Cheers.
You kept that quiet.
Yeah, well, I did until Saturday, and then someone said that I'd mentioned it to you 10 times. So,
by the way, have I mentioned that? Yeah. Yeah, well done, Paul. So,
no, thanks. Yeah. I don't know that I have any secrets. I just played the fixture volume, I guess, and it's worked out quite well.
So Paul is 2nd overall in fan team. He's also roughly around the top 100 in Dream Team, 40th in Sky, and you're flying in Telegraph as well. So not a bad season for you, Paul. Could be a very, very profitable one for you this season, by the look of it. Neil, if you had Bruno, would you move to Kane or Son on Wednesday? Yeah, so we kind of answered this earlier.
I think I would.
I would too. I think if they had 1 or 2 decent fixtures after Watford, I think I'd be tempted to maybe hold.
You'll have made up a lot of ground, or done a lot of work with having Bruno over Ronaldo, and I think that there's a potential that it could get undone by not owning Kane.
Agree. He's done his job exactly as you wanted him to, right? For reasons unknown, is Kane now very important? I think yes. Would you hold Weghorst and captain, or bring in Kane for Weghorst and captains? This is more interesting. This is for Weghorst. Obviously, Burnley have extra fixtures. If it comes down to ownership, you'd probably say Kane, but
I don't know if the person that posted the question owns Salah. I'd be more scared about not owning Salah than I would be about not owning Kane at that juncture. And if they owned, I don't know that I would. Maybe I would. I don't know. Yeah. So like for me, Salah's the most important captain against Leeds, and even if I had to rip up my team to get him,
absolutely,
I probably would. I don't think that Kane not doubling, you're not getting the captaincy points against Burnley is that important. But then you're probably going to want Kane on Saturday as
anyway,
captain.
so you're just making a transfer.
I think
anyway.
he's a standout. Yeah, I think he's a standout captaincy option on Saturday anyway. So I probably would, and not captain Kane, but captain Salah.
Frank FF Stuff is in the chat. Joined us late on Saturday evening. Great to have you with us, Frank. Brian Packham says, I've decided to take Pope out for Sarr and get a Leicester player into cover next Tuesday single game day. Would you go for the highest ceiling of Maddison or Tielemans to keep ticking along? So if you were going for a Leicester player, Paul, who would you go for?
Tielemans.
I think I would as well. Just more route to points in it. And he did look fantastic yesterday on penalties, even though Vardy may be back in the next week or two.
Yeah, I don't think that would. Maddison's in my mould of the 2-2-2-10. I say my mould, maybe I plagiarised it from somewhere. But the 2-2-2-10 situation where I think Tielemans is more a steadier stream of points. Really? And I like the consistency and sort of Sky assets.
Agree. David Martinez sold Bowen for Rafinha yesterday because I don't like West Ham's next four. On a scale of 1 to 10, how dumb was that move? I'm not sure it's that dumb, judging on Paul's analysis.
No, I personally wouldn't have done it because of his ownership on that single game day against Wolves. But like looking to the next 3 or 4 weeks afterwards, I'd rather have Rafinha than Bowen. So
Steve Cheek has just asked a quick question in the chat. If you already own Son, who would you move Ronaldo onto? The only captain requirement is Southampton.
Kane.
You would,
and then just have that double. Yeah, and I'd have that double.
You'd rather have a double up on them
be happy with
and miss the Friday night game.
Oh, sorry, it doesn't have Southampton already.
Yep.
What I would do, I like Southampton's fixtures after them, but I would probably use 2 transfers. I would probably bring in Ward-Prowse, and I'd probably use a second transfer on Kane at Leeds as well, I think, and not bother about Kane away to Burnley because you're already captain of Salah anyway.
I agree with that. Yeah, I do that.
And I apologize if I'm making an assumption that everyone's captain in Salah on Wednesday, but I think that
if you're not captain Salah on Wednesday, then yeah, you should.
Okay, Fergi's not apologising.
Absolutely not. So. If you don't captain Salah on Wednesday, if he starts, obviously
he could play.
Yeah,
he could blank and Kane could score. I know, but
every fantasy football factor we ever take into account,
yeah,
every single one points to it. And if you go against it, then you're taking an unnecessary risk. I suppose it's fair to say rather than say something a bit more. FF Joe, great to meet you on Saturday again, Joe. Says, great to see you both in England's best city. Thankfully, Bruno was my captain today. Very well played, but should I keep him? When it's the best time to offload. So I think Kane on Wednesday. Just take the points and run.
I think so,
yeah. Tom Hartnell again asks a similar question. Asks when to take out United player and who to, Son or Kane. So I think we both fancy Kane, both fancy Wednesday. FPL Foxy asks Paul, would you bring in Gabriel? If so, for Webster or Laporte? I already have cover for Arsenal days, however, and have above average transfers remaining.
I still probably wouldn't. I think I would just hold it, and I think there's going to be some really good opportunities come up for good bonus players like Gabriel further down the line. I think if I want to use a transfer, or I think that Gabriel outscores Laporte doubled to single more than 15, and I'd probably say the answer to that is no.
Yeah,
I value a transfer at 15 points. If Gabriel even got a 20-pointer, Laporte would have to get less than 5 against Everton at the weekend to make it worth it. I wouldn't be too certain on that. That would be the way I'd think about it.
Ross Atkin in the chat says he has Reguilon and Digne. I want rid of both. What moves can I make?
Don't buy wing backs again. in Sky.
Yep. Just Gabriel and Ward-Prowse. I think they're
both nice moves. Yeah.
Roughly around the same sort of price, haven't they?
Or if you need, and just beware if you need budget to get to someone like Kane or something like that down the line. Obviously, I'm not sure what the rest of his team is, but then it could be Ring and Broja instead of Ward-Prowse if you need that budget to move things up.
Shane asks, does anyone stand out as a potential differential after the first few games to try and gain ground early?
Son was mentioned there. The Tielemans move could work out as well against Burnley. Like you pick up the extra game there. I still think that there's going to be, like, as I said, I think there's going to be some really good opportunities. That Chelsea one, like if that Chelsea Norwich game goes in there,
Chelsea
using 3 transfers instead of 2, like, so that's the difference in the one that you're thinking of using now. The difference between that, having a triple up instead of having a double up, could be massive.
Jumping on something early, like a week earlier than everyone else, I think is a differential move, right? And I was gutted because just a brief anecdote on Saturday evening, I was planned to move Kane into my Telegraph team on Saturday evening. He's reasonably highly owned, but obviously he's going to be massively highly owned from the next match onwards. And we're downstairs in the place, and I'd had a few drinks, and I was chatting with Paul, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I got to remember to make this move to bring in Kane. And as I looked up at the TV, the players were taking the knee. And I was like, oh my God. So I tried to get it done, but because the phone signal wasn't the best downstairs, it didn't do it in time. And Kane obviously managed to score a 12-pointer in Telegraph, which is an absolute killer for me. But sorry, just the point of the story is it's very likely that Chelsea are going to be a very popular defence going into the running. And if you can get in and have like a 200 or 300% EO ahead of people who are maybe on 0 and maybe on 100, that will shoot you up. I think I'm more of a fan than that sort of play rather than going for, differential players personally, because normally when you go for differential players, there's normally a much more obvious player that the majority are on, and they're on them for a reason. So like Kane versus Son, Salah versus Mane, you're on the best option. So I think that's a better play personally. Bensko FF, would you guys go for Trent and Son or Laporte and Kane? Already has Van Dijk and Cancelo, but leaning on holding Trent over Laporte and hoping Son can continue to outscore Kane to give you extra budget to play with.
Probably go for Laporte and Kane. I still think I think he's got much higher upside than Son, and you're going to be captain him when on Trent they do have more fixtures than Man City, but you're always going to be captain in Salah if he starts.
Yep. FPL Fish, what's the optimal move now if you still own 3 City defenders and didn't make the move to a Wolves defender today? So on to Gabriel, I suppose, on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at it.
Or would you go for Wolves fixture volume and still go for a Wolves defender?
Probably not. And I like sitting with one. Like, I'm happy sitting with one Wolves defender. I don't know that I'd want to double up. They don't get bonus often, even though they've got the extra volume. I'm just trying to think. So they play Man United. They don't play till the Monday afterwards. Maybe an extra Spurs player or an extra player that plays the midweek on Thursday the 10th, or if Chelsea get that fixture in on Wednesday the 9th, getting rid of you play your 2-man City, your 3-man City defenders against Everton this week. Then it comes to Sunday the 6th, you play your 3-man City defenders against Man United. They're likely to pick up bonus then still, I think. And then you could move 2 of them onto Chelsea players on Wednesday the 9th, maybe if Chelsea get that fixture in there. But there's other fixtures on Thursday the 10th. You could move on to a Newcastle player and play the volume of fixtures there with the captaincy. So there's a few options there. Or an Everton player as well on Monday the 7th and have them as a captain the following week.
Just skimming through the questions we've answered most of them in the previous answers. There is one question of FPL Face-Off Tom. Great to meet you, Tom, by the way, on Saturday.
Thanks for showing us around afterwards as well, because it was him that was guiding us when we were like deep in the pints.
Who would win in a game of table tennis between Paul McAnulty and Fergi, he asks.
So we're going to find out next weekend, aren't we?
I think we are. So for those who didn't, so we were having a bit of a, well, I wouldn't say we were having a friendly debate on who would win in a game of table tennis. Paul plays in work when he goes into the office. I'm not very good, but I'm okay. I play like once every 5 years, but I do really enjoy it. But Paul was very sure. He's very sure he beat me, overly sure.
I've already beat you at pool and that. Like you're down at like the snooker hall every week.
I'm not facing that, mate. I'm not having that.
Well, I did though. That's factual. Like you might have potted the black early, but that's fact.
Yeah, we'll see. So I'm going up to Edinburgh next week to see Paul, and we were just talking briefly earlier. We've got a bit of an afternoon to ourselves, so I think we're going to go for a few pints, find a table tennis joint, find a pool joint, and have the FFH Sky Pub Olympics on that afternoon. So that's going to be fun. So expect some tears on the next podcast of Mr. McAnulty when he realises the significantly underestimated at FFH_Fergi in the pub Olympic Games. I know Paul will be practicing all week now probably. And coincidentally we did find an outdoor table the next morning, didn't we? But it was hammering down with rain, and we didn't have a bat. A paddle, I should say, as you corrected someone on the weekend, or balls. Okay.
Well, that made me even more sure if I wasn't sure before. I'm sure Tom asked another question as well about our falling out on the Saturday afternoon.
Oh yes, he did. So Paul and I had. I asked Paul a question, and I said to Paul, I said, "What did I say? Like, what is your weakness?"
But you started off, and it was almost like you were goading me anyway, right? Because you're like, I know what your weakness is in fantasy football, and he's like, but before I say it, you can tell me what yours are, so it's kind of even. And I can't remember, I can remember.
So you put me on, I can remember.
No, I can remember how it came across, but it was definitely not it was definitely not how it was intended. But you refused, like you're doing now. You refused to let me explain myself afterwards. But I can explain myself just now if you want to hear it.
Word for word, mate. It was word for word.
I did not say that you don't understand the rules of.
I think you'll find that's exactly what you said.
It's not. So when you said it, I was thinking like. The first thing that came in my head was when you picked Lacazette over Holden. And what I was trying to, in Sky, and what I was trying to articulate is that you could have got away with that move in any other fantasy format, but you couldn't get away with it in Sky. And I was trying to portray that across, but what it came across like was you don't understand the rules across multiple formats. And you're like, I won Dream Team last year.
I don't think I said that. I did say something like that. That is one thing I do actually pride myself on is understanding the differences between the games and choosing players appropriate to each format. But the I was trying
to give you that example, and you just would not let me speak.
Lacazette and Holding, I'm completely aware, right, that Holding was probably the right move. I just made a knee-jerk decision on that evening to take a punt that Arsenal would concede, and Lacazette would score a goal or two. That's not understanding how the game works.
You pushed me into a corner. And made me say something that I was already 7 or 8 pints in.
You couldn't have said.
Yes, I didn't articulate it particularly well. I totally agree, but you wouldn't have let me explain that afterwards because
you couldn't have hurt me. You couldn't have hurt me any more by saying that. Like, you couldn't have hurt me any more than saying, "I don't think you understand the rules properly between each game." I literally nearly fell off my chair.
Yeah. Those definitely weren't my words, and it might have come across that was the sentiment. It wasn't verbatim.
No, I'm joking. Anyway, mine for Paul, for those who are interested, was that I said I think that Paul puts himself in incredibly great positions in fantasy games, but just doesn't really try and take that risk to try and win it. But then his comeback, which is fair enough, was you're not trying to win it. You're trying to win all your multitudes of mini leagues, and you're perfectly happy. Which is,
I said I took that.
Fair enough.
I said I took that as a compliment as opposed to
exactly.
dig. And I think you should have felt the same about my.
How can I take a compliment that I don't I don't really understand the intricacies between each of the fantasy games when it's like my full-time job, and my full-time job is to understand the games and play the games and and present them to people. Like we don't really understand what you're doing, do you? But anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. I look forward to giving you an absolute pasting next week in all these pub sports. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. As you can tell, I get quite defensive about this sort of thing, Paul.
You shouldn't have backed me into a corner.
Frank says fight. And Liam Dorian says any Czech beer at the weekend. Yeah, we went on a cider boat, didn't we? And I was the only person who drank lager because I'm not particularly fond of cider, so I looked like a bit of a fool there. But quickly, a couple of questions from Hotshot. Back to the actual game. Could triple Liverpool defence be a shout? I think the time for that's probably gone, to be honest, for me. What do you think, Paul?
I just think with the caught, like, I personally wouldn't go for Matip, so it would have to be Robertson, Trent, and Van Dijk if you were doing that. And then that's eating up a lot of the budget when you could be getting kind of the Chelsea and Gabriel and the Chelsea players in for the 1 or 2 million cheaper and have a more balanced team. I think that would be my concerns about doing that.
And one more question off Hotshot. He's got De Gea, but doesn't know who to take him out for and when should I take him out. So it depends on whether you've got captaincies covered, doesn't it? Someone like maybe even Sarr or Ramsdale on Thursday maybe a good option.
Could be Mendy.
Mendy when their fixtures change. Yeah, good plan. Okay, hopefully that has answered everyone's questions. We had so many this week. Thank you so much for everyone for sending those in. Just a quick update on my team then. Pope in goal, Cancelo, Trent, Laporte and Kilman, Gallagher, Bowen, Coutinho, Ward-Prowse, Salah and Ronaldo. I will likely be moving Ronaldo to Kane on Wednesday. Got Kilman in for captain Thursday, got Ward-Prowse in for Friday. And then to your point, Paul, it's a good one. I've got Gallagher and Bowen who could potentially be dispensable after that. I'm always fighting the battle with myself around those. To me seems just two players you should just leave in, but with these extra fixtures, these 4-for-1s and stuff, there's obviously the battle. I don't just want to kind of idle into the last few game weeks still in the position I'm in, and I'm not really kind of trying to push. I don't think for any minute I'm going to win it now, but I would like still to think I've got a half decent shout at a top 100 finish, and I'm obviously in lots of different leagues and combo leagues and stuff, so I want to finish as high as I can. So I've got a few things to maybe think about there, and I do want to end up, if I can, let's say with a 5-3-2. That's and kind of go into the running with Chelsea defenders and all this sort of stuff. So things to think about. I think I've got the budget actually to go Gallagher to Rudiger, maybe. I don't know, something along those lines. Maybe have a think in the coming weeks. Quick look at the leagues before we wrap up. This is the Hub £500 league. 10th place Rob Watson-Lang, 9th Ryan West, 8th Peter Gilderdale, 7th James Ingram shot up 10 places. Well played, James. Probably had Bruno captain, I guess. 6th Oliver Colgan, 5th Auto Reclose Darren Malloy, up 10 places as well. Looks like he had a cracking weekend. Well done, Darren. Michael Shipley 4th, Carl Weeks still in 3rd and 2nd, and Liam Stevens retains his place top. He seems to have been there like all season, so very well played, Liam. Frog Skills FC still top. Well played to everyone there, and a bit of movement in the Four Nations League. We'll skip all the bottom teams, but Ian Parrin, a slight drop, 2204, but obviously got plenty of transfers in hand. He will be right up there. Liam Dorian, 2215, had a good weekend by the look of it. Liam, well done. Dan Cox joins my second team on par now, so Dan is flying up the leaderboard. Very well played there, Dan and Liam Anian. They're all catching my team. That's what I mean about my team remaining a little bit kind of stagnant. I'm still second and third, but only just. And Paul, you are far and away. You're 63 points clear of the lot of us. So looks like the trophy could be heading from Ireland to Scotland in the summer, but still, still a fair bit to play there. Glenn said almost better than Dan's rant there. I can get a bit defensive at times when Fergie's hairdryer on it. And that is it for us for this week. Hope you enjoyed. Even though I don't know what I'm talking about anything fancy football, hopefully we've managed to provide a bit of entertainment for you for the last hour and some tips. as usual, thank you so much, everyone, for watching live, for listening in, for watching back. Your continued support is much, much appreciated, as usual. And thank you so much, Paul, for all your brilliant insight, thoughts, answers, analysis, observations around my fantasy prowess, and everything else. Where can people find you, Paul, apart from in the bin next Monday?
on Twitter at Paul McAnulty 1, MCANULTY.
Cool. My Twitter handle is at FFH_Fergi. We'll probably be podding a little bit later next week, but we will give you an update from the at FFH_Sky Pub Olympics taking place in Edinburgh next Monday by the sounds. This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub, Sky and TFF YouTube channel, and also available in all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen if you haven't already. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast versions. Give us 5 stars. Go on, just do it. And leave us a couple of comments on how we're doing, anything we can improve. Our handles on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are at FFH_HQ, and our podcast Twitter handle is at FFH_Sky. So please follow and feel free to ask any questions. Our handles on Twitter, no, I've said that. Our website is fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, where you'll find everything you need for fantasy football, all under one roof, including player comparison tools, the fixture ticker, Opta stats, top player team reveals, and much, much more. We will be back sometime next week, looking ahead, what will it be, to game week 30. Stay safe. Best of luck for the game week, and goodbye for now.